Well, here we are at the Students for Liberty conference in DC. It is the opening night. Robert Breedlove, you were one of our speakers on a panel just now, focusing, specializing, looking extensively and exclusively at Bitcoin. Why do you think it is that a Liberty conference opens with Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, quite simply, money is the most important technology in the world. And our current implementation of money is tyrannical, basically. It's very anti-liberty. And Bitcoin is the antithesis of that. So Bitcoin is freedom money. You're right, a few years ago this would have seemed strange, but today I can't think of any better topic than to open with. Technically it was on CBDCs, so they were trying to look at the dark side. But anytime you talk about the dark side, you inevitably end up talking about the light.
Well, this is something I want to dive into because it's confusing for lay people out there to say Bitcoin good, CBDC bad. What's the difference? What makes one of them the light and the other one the darkness?
You could frame it in terms of centralization versus decentralization. Now, CBDC would be the ultimate centralized money, right? There's one group of people that can fully survey, control, print, manipulate, freeze, reverse, socially engineer all users of a money, right? You can think about it as a one-node database. And whoever runs that node runs everyone else that's forced to use the money. Again, Bitcoin is the exact opposite. Every individual is a node on a database. So the individuals choose for themselves what rules serve their individual self-interest. And the collective outcome of that is the social consensus called Bitcoin. So it's a matter of, and you could also frame this as like communism versus capitalism, or central planning versus capitalism. Central planning we know is bad, right? You have one group deciding prices, output quotas, etc. It creates dislocations in the market, shortages and overages, people starving, to unused product, unsold inventory, like Soviet Russia, right, in a nutshell. We know central planning is bad. Capitalism is the opposite of central planning. It's decentralized planning. It's every individual making decisions based on the information particular to their time and place. So decentralized planning good, centralized planning bad. Bitcoin is decentralized money, CBDC is centralized money.
So the difference in the central bank digital currency, Bitcoin is digital currency, the difference is the central bank
That's
side.
right, it's a centralization. So, and it's a matter of like, in decentralization, each individual governs themselves, they own themselves, they're not beholden to any other authority, they author themselves. In a centralized model, you have an authority that authors your destiny, right? That tells you what to do. And if you don't do what you're told, then you get hurt. So it's like freedom versus tyranny.
Now, throughout the life of Bitcoin, which is now pushing out towards 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, we've had a continuous stream of predictions. On one side, it's going to collapse and turn into nothing, and on the other side, people saying it's going to the moon. We've seen both of those. Neither of those have proven to be correct. There is, however, a reality that there's a finite number of Bitcoins in the world, and there are, it seems increasingly to me, but that might be just the bubble that I'm in, more and more people saying that's a problem, this can only last for so long. Once that last Bitcoin is issued, that's it for Bitcoin. You've got a response to that. What is it, how do you, you're a Bitcoiner, not a shitcoiner, if I can put it that way. You're a Bitcoin purist. Why do you see such a big future in Bitcoin and other people see it?
Yeah, so I would first like to push back on the first point.
Okay.
You know, Bitcoin is the fastest growing asset in human history in 15 years, so if it's moon or zero, like you got to pick a side. I'd say, well, it's not the zero, fastest growing asset in human history. So the moon boys are winning so far. Why do people think it's going off a cliff? First of all, so the way Bitcoin works is that it's issued on a fixed and diminishing supply curve. So it's the only asset, one, that has a perfectly fixed supply in the world, and that we know the exact supply at any point in time. You can't say that, you can't globally audit the supply of anything, ever.
Gold.
Nothing.
How much is still in the ground that we haven't found yet?
It's all estimates.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's the opposite, right? It's like you can actually verify, you can run the software, you don't have to trust anyone, you verify for yourself how many Bitcoin have been issued, how many can possibly be in circulation. So that curve, the issuance rate reduces by 50% every 4 years in what's called the halving. The next event is in May 2024, this year. And then the next one's in 2028, 32, et cetera. That's, you can think about that as like quantitative tightening, where there's less and less Bitcoin being produced, as opposed to the quantitative easing that central banks engage in. That curve terminates at 0 in the year 2140. So
Okay.
no more Bitcoin is issued after the year 2140. It hits its cap of 21 million. You subtract lost coins.
And there are a few now.
And they estimate, again, we don't know, but 3 to 4 million lost coins.
Yeah.
So there are detractors who would say that when Bitcoin is no longer has this block subsidy to incentivize miners to mine, that Bitcoin will fail. Well, you could study the first 15 years of Bitcoin's history, and I would say it strongly evinces otherwise. Because what Bitcoin does is it switches from a block subsidy model for funding miners and incentivizing miners to mine and secure the network to a transaction fee model.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we've seen happen, is that as block subsidy has declined, transaction fees have increased, and those miners are still being incentivized.
So in a way, it's almost a soft switch. It's viewed as a cliff, but there is actually something of a soft switch.
Every 4 years, 50% reduction all the way out until the year 2140. So the people that are saying this thing's going off a cliff, you're speculating about something in the year 2040.
115 years away. Okay, so what's the issue then with other types of cryptocurrency? There's a bazillion coins out there, from Dogecoin to much more serious efforts to try and do something that's practicable. Why is someone like you so passionate and excited about Bitcoin and not about these other, what many would say are alternative cryptocurrencies?
Again, it's the dichotomy of centralization versus decentralization. Another way to frame this, though, you know, the internet emerged as a set of successive protocols. So we have like HTTP, TCP/IP, SMTP.
Yeah.
Those protocols were competing in the free market before basically the world ossifies onto one. We standardize onto one protocol, and that thing becomes the standard.
Yeah.
Right? You know, network effects take hold. Everyone uses HTTP. Everyone uses TCP/IP today. So there's a competitive market process by which these protocols ossify and become a global standard.
Sure.
And it becomes a global standard because there's an economy of scale to be gained by everyone speaking the same language, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Bitcoin is like the internet of money, right? It's just another open source protocol, but instead of permissionlessly moving information, we're permissionlessly moving economic value.
Okay.
So you can think of it as like the latest layer in the internet. Now, it is definitively the most decentralized, right? It's been attacked more than any other network.
I cannot argue with that.
It's the biggest, most valuable network. We tried to fork it to have larger blocks in 2017. There have been attacks, to fork it and increase the supply cap and change this and change that, blah, 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 blah. It's the most decentralized one. So the Bitcoiner argument would be it has standardized to become the internet protocol for money.
Yeah.
Every other shitcoin, which I mean all of them, Ethereum on all the way down, are copy-paste of that, and then they're using the Bitcoin protocol to either try to compete with Bitcoin directly, which I think is a fool's errand for the reasons we just set out, or they're trying to use it to address another market niche.
Right.
And maybe they'll be successful in other market niches, who knows? But there's no market larger than the market for money. We're talking about $100 trillion+ market.
Yeah.
If you combine the use case for every other of the 30,000 shitcoins, you might get $10 or trillion in total addressable market, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the possibility that it's going to succeed and capture all that is obviously low. So for me, it's just like, why be distracted by any of that noise when you can focus on the provably decentralized internet of money that only needs to keep doing a block every 10 minutes and adhering to a supply cap of 21 million.
Yeah.
And then presumably would continue to be the fastest growing asset in human history and outcompete all other forms of money. Well, I mean, how much upside do you need, right? There's still 200x upside left in Bitcoin, and it doesn't need any technological improvement, really.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to scale Lightning Network and some of these layer 2s to make it more transactable, but Bitcoin Core doesn't need to do anything new.
So that was where I wanted to go. I'm mindful of your time. You've been very generous with us, and you've been very busy with the conference, and you haven't had dinner yet. So just trust me, Robert has
Mainly the dinner.
Robert has looked after us today. But I did want to get to this, the usability criticism. This idea of it's every 10 minutes. I want to tap my card now, and the payment's got to go. I can't hang around in a coffee shop for 10 minutes. There's a lot of people hung up on perhaps earlier iterations, and may not be aware of some of these innovations that are helping to solve those problems. So can you bring us up to speed? Where is Bitcoin at now?
Yeah, so I use Lightning Network to transact with people, pay people that work for me all the time. It works perfectly fine. It's, they send you an invoice, or you scan an invoice and you type in the amount, or the amount actually will populate if they send an invoice, and you hit send, and it's done. It's instant, final settlement, no intermediaries, works perfectly. That's one scaling solution. That's a layer 2 protocol called Lightning. There's other things like side chains and Liquid and all these other experiments going on that offer similar features with different trade-offs. And it's just like early days of the internet. Like I said, when people are experimenting to determine which protocol wins, well, that protocol experimentation is happening now on top of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin's sort of one Internet of Money protocol. Now there's experimentation taking place, layer 2, layer 3. So anyone that's saying, Bitcoin's not transactable, not usable, it's like you haven't done the homework, clearly, because it works. It's in my pocket, it works all the time. If you had a Lightning wallet, I'd show you right now.
Yeah,
so,
I don't.
There you go.
I've got some catching up to do myself.
It's early days, right? So it's still, and it takes, Bitcoin's a really big idea. And people get very accustomed to using technologies, and I think it just takes time, right? Like 25 years ago, CEOs were being told they needed a website.
Yeah.
Fortune 1000 CEOs like, why do I need a website? Why do I need the internet? I've got the intranet. I don't need that. I'll build my own internet. And then fast forward 25 years, there are no intranets.
Yeah.
It's all internet. The open network always outcompetes the closed network. So I just think it's a matter of time.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. Robert, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.